Hello, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends, brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency, devoted to promoting musicians and authors worldwide. Call us today at 941-877-1552 to start your free publicity evaluation. Remember, we shine only when we make you shine. Please welcome the host of Interviewing the Legends, music journalist, author, and entrepreneur, Ray Shasho.
Hello once again, everyone. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends on BBS Radio, brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency. Call us today at 941-877-1552 or email us at publicityworksagency.com. Remember, we shine only when we make you shine. And by the Rockstar Chronicles Series 1, my new book featuring over 45 intimate conversations with the greatest music legends the world will ever know. Available now at bookbaby.com and amazon.com. Well, legendary Alice Cooper group drummer Neal Smith has released a new album. Neal's new retro pop album is titled Pop 85-95, signifying the music style and time period in which Neal wrote these songs between 1985 and 1995. The songs and album concept are totally sexy and politically incorrect. Neal's Pop 85-95 songs represent all aspects of relationships, falling in and out of love at a simpler bygone era before coronavirus, politically correctness, and the New World Disorder. With the onslaught of glam hair bands and heavily homogenized rock of the 1980s, Neal Smith, Hall of Fame drummer and founding member of the original Alice Cooper group, was looking for a new direction for his songwriting. Inspired by another drummer, songwriter, singer Phil Collins, Neal turned from writing hard rock to a slicker, more pop rock songwriting style. In the late 1980s, he took 4 of his new songs into the studio and recorded them. One of the songs, Secret Eyes, helped land a recording deal with newly formed record company called Grudge Records. Along with Dennis Dunaway, Joe Bouchard, Charlie Hune, and lead guitarist J. Jesse Johnson, a new band called Deadringer was formed and signed by Grudge Records. Deadringer recorded an album in 1989 called Electrocution of the Heart, featuring the single Secret Eyes. The album and Deadringer were all short-lived after Grudge Records' quick demise. After Deadringer and well into the 1990s, Neal continued writing songs with J. Jesse Johnson in this pop rock style. Decades later, well into the new millennium, Neal was searching through his archives of music and found those songs that he composed and recorded with Triple J between the years of 1985 and 1995. Inspired by Triple J's amazing lead guitar work, Neal polished the songs and brought them back to life with the help of 2 of his best friends, Peter Catucci, bass guitar player with Killsmith, and Rick Tedesco, guitarist and engineer. Now, much to the excitement of his fans worldwide, Neal Smith's Pop 85-95 is available digitally and on CD. Please welcome legendary drummer, co-founder, and rock and roll Hall of Fame member with the Alice Cooper group, Neal Smith, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Neal.
Drum roll, please. Hey, how you doing today, Ralph?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. How hot is it over there?
Good. Well, I'm in Arizona, and we're in for a massive 10 days of triple-digit heat. It's going up to 107, 108 degrees today, and it's too hot to play golf, too hot to play drums. Well, you can always play drums. Crank up the AC. But yeah, it's hot. I will be heading back to Connecticut. That's my normal home base.
Right.
But because of the virus and air travel and that sort of thing, I've stayed. I come out here for the winter the last 5 years, so I'm here now, and it is hot.
You don't you vacation too in Finland, or you used to?
Yes. No, I for about the past 10 years,
right.
We have a house in in Finland, and so we go there during the summer. I love it, and because of international travel is actually very tight and secure right now, so I'm not going to be able to go over to Finland this summer, which I'm going to miss, but hopefully that will all be remedied and I can go back there next summer, 2021.
First of all, I want to apologize to you. Last time we spoke, we were promoting Killsmith Halloween. Right. Of course, you have the series of Killsmith CDs out, which are wonderful. But the interview never aired because I lost it in a fire. The radio station burnt down.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that, Ray. That's a tragedy. That's sad news.
This was in Paradise, California. The whole town went up. And because we broadcasted from there, but since then they moved to Lafayette. I'm still with that. I've been with them for like over 5 years now. Uh-huh. But I was disappointed. I lost, I think, 5 interviews, but I made up 3 of them. One of them was, Hot Lips Houlihan from MASH. Loretta Swit.
Oh yeah, cool.
Yeah, so she was kind enough to do that.
That's great.
Yeah. So how have you been surviving during the quarantine? What have you been doing?
Well, actually, this is a project. I came out to Arizona in December of 2019. Alice invited Michael Bruce and Dennis Dunaway and myself to play for his annual Christmas pudding, his one of 2 big fundraisers annually for his Solid Rock Foundation, which is a great organization to benefit inner city kids and kids that normally wouldn't be exposed to sports and music. And it's a great organization. And so we came right out here for that, and we were joined on stage with Joe Bonamassa and Johnny Depp.
Oh wow!
So it was a fun time. We also recorded 2 songs on Alice's new album, the follow-up to the Breadcrumbs album, with a Detroit theme, and one song I wrote and another song Dennis Dunaway wrote, and they're slated to be on the new album release. I don't know when it's going to be finished and released this year. So that's one of the projects I've been working on, and then going to my new CD, Pop 8595. I discovered these tracks maybe 3 or 4 years ago, before the Alice Cooper group the original Alice Cooper group went to the UK to do a 5-city tour over there, and late 2017. So I found these, and I was very excited about them. They needed some work. They needed bass guitar, but otherwise, these are the original tracks recorded between 1985 and 1995, and they were written and recorded at that time period. These are not new recordings.
Right.
These are recordings that I took and I polished up, added bass guitar, re-EQ'd, mastered, and shined them up and put them on this new CD. And I was very excited about that. It's been about the past 2 months when I've been out here in Arizona. I finished them up in the studio with the sequencing and formatting and all the things that go into finishing off an album, and just released it June 2020 for a summer release. It's I'm very excited about it. I'm very curious. It's a very different style of music. Obviously, you were talking about one of the influences I had back in the 80s and 90s was Phil Collins.
Right.
I really liked what he was doing.
Yeah.
And as a drummer, always curious and interested in what other drummers are doing when they go out solo, and especially songwriter drummers. And he's one of the best, and I loved his production, his music, and some of his great songs found their way into great movies as well. So I was inspired to do that, and I was also the songs you talked about. The first ones, there were 4 tunes that I demoed up back in the late 80s, and 3 of them, If I Only Had You, Dying to Love You, and Secret Eyes, we submitted to a new company, Grudge Records, in based in the New York area, and they loved the song "Secret Eyes," and that helped us get a deal. And that band Deadringer was formed around that. And as you had mentioned, the company and the band was short-lived. So I kept writing, but I wrote a new group of songs between that time period, late 80s and 1995, and they featured what I was. Obviously, during that time period, there were a lot of programmed drums in the music that was coming out,
right.
Popular music, and I was a little discouraged that many of those songs and that percussion was programmed by engineers and keyboard players. Now that's fine, but they're not drummers.
Right.
And I'm very obviously my heart is in percussion and drumming, so I bought some equipment, synthesizers that I could program the drums, and I wrote a group of songs in that early 90s period, fitting right into the category 85-95, and recorded them, put the keyboard on, programmed that. I wrote the songs. I put all the keyboards on the songs, and put them on stereo 2-track, and then added Triple J, Jesse Johnson, a good friend of mine, great guitar player from the New England area, who now lives in the Midwest. He has his own band there. He plays great rock, great blues, and then I put the vocals on. So it's like guitar, keyboards, synthesizer, drums, and vocals, and that's it. And they were very full, and it was recorded on tape. So it's it has that warm rock feel to it, because that's the way it was done in those days. And over time, when I listened to it, they kind of got misplaced. So I a couple of years ago discovered them, and I was really excited about Triple J's guitar work on it. He's masterful, and he inspired me to finish these songs. He has not heard the finished product yet, so I'm sure he's going to be pretty pleased with that. And Peter Gatucci, as you had mentioned, from the Killsmith, the band I've done 3 albums with, and we had talked about the best of Killsmith Halloween that was released, I believe it was last year. Or the year before, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, he lives in Florida now, down the Miami area. He moved from Connecticut, so we sent the songs to him, and he put bass on all the songs, finished them up, and so I've got live bass in addition to the keyboards on there, and I'm very excited about it. And as you mentioned, they're very romantic songs about things that happen in relationships. Fall in love with a person, you fall out of love with a person, somebody that you love that you can never really be with, a fantasy lover that you know is out there but you never find.
Right.
So all of those crazy aspects are in the album, and it's they were written 30 plus or minus years ago, so it was a whole different time, and things that may be in there considered politically incorrect these days, but I'm a person that never really cares about that art first. And again, it's like a time capsule. So if you take a time capsule, there's going to be things that are in a time capsule that are very different from many years, many decades later, and that's what's fun about this, these recordings. There's 11 songs in total on the CD, and I'm very excited about it, and I'm very excited about the fans and possibly some new fans, listening to the music and getting their feedback and response.
A lot of these songs have that top 40 hit feel to it. I mean, like
that was the idea, to make them a little more, a little slicker.
Right.
I got away from the real hard edge, because that was a time period. I had gone into the residential real estate business in Connecticut. I started that in 1985, and actually it was about 5 years ago I basically retired from that business and got a little bit more into my music again, and that's where I went through everything and found these tapes. But at that time period, I was in the real estate business, but I still had ideas for songs.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a different way of writing for me, and I had the keyboards, and I still love to write. I write on keyboards, I write on guitar. Sometimes an idea will come to your head, and you get the words for it, and sometimes you get the melody for it. There's never a pattern, and never a set pattern for me when I write.
Right.
And then I start working with great guitar players like Triple J, and then Peter Catucci, who was in the Killsmith projects. So that's the inspiration, and yeah, it's a very different. So it does have more of a top 40 sort of a feel to it, and hopefully, I'm a percussionist, a drummer, so I like to concentrate on the groove and on the drums.
Well, I was a top 40 DJ back in the late 70s and 80s, so I really love these songs. What one favorite I think would have really been on the charts, probably, I think back then in the top 10 is Secret Eyes. What a cool track.
Well, that was the one again. That was the original demo that got us the deal with Grudge Records, and that's a great song.
That's a great song.
Actually, Joe Bouchard from Oyster Cult.
Yep.
He and I wrote the song, and then he kind of refined it. So he was very, very influential in that song, co-writing it with me.
Now, who's singing on these tunes?
I am.
Oh, that's you? Wow. Where were you? Where were you all these years?
That was, it was a whole different style for me other than
incredible.
the Killsmith. And I really try. That's why I say this is my first solo album, Neal Smith solo album since Platinum God.
Right.
That was recorded in 1975 and released in 1999, and then this was recorded in between 85 and 95 and written in those years, and then finally, almost 30 years later, I decide to release it as as a novelty, but I'm very curious to see, what the fans, what the reaction is, and it's a very different style for me. I mean, I was told by people back in the day that I had. They kind of reminded me. I don't know if my vocals remind you of anybody else, in rock and roll.
They do.
But it's a style. It always sounds like, to me, it sounds like me.
Right.
But anybody that they ever compare me to, it was always a compliment.
Well, I hear in your voice a combination. Okay, I don't know if you knew the New Radicals. A guy named Greg Alexander. Listen to You Get What You Give was a big hit. And your voice sounds a lot like his. Plus, there's a couple of tunes you sound like Robert Plant.
Well, Robert Plant's the one I usually get right.
Okay.
So that was why I wanted you. I'm not going to say it because I've heard that before, but whoever it is, if they can sing, that's a compliment. And like I said, that was just that's before they had the pitch tones and adjustment and mixes and all that sort of thing. Boom, that's what's there on the tapes, and it was fun to do, and they were very emotional because I had in the early 90s I had gone through a terrible divorce, and you go through a divorce, it's a loss, and there's nothing directly on all the 11 songs that is for a particular person or situation, but after many years of you go through a divorce and then you meet people and you're in and out of relationships, there's a lot of you get a big library of emotions in your personality and in your heart and in your soul, and that's what music is. It's a great release, and doesn't necessarily have to be an inspiration you can put your finger on, but it's there, it's inside you, it never goes away. And I think that's with everything else that's going on in the world, it's fun to have something that's that real and that fresh and honest. I
agree. Well, I think Alice should have used you on a lot of his albums before, man. You got a great voice. You really do.
Well, it was like I said, it was a particular time in my life when I was trying to do something completely different, getting out of the rock and roll business and into another profession. I've always enjoyed the business and enjoyed the real estate world, and actually started investing in real estate when the band was together. I had made personal investments. I know Alice did. Michael Bruce did. And I believe Dennis did as well. And we did as a group. We had some group projects that we had real estate investments back in the early 70s once we started having some money rolling in. And, it's great to have it. It's great to spend it and have a good time, but it's also smart and good to invest as well.
Well, you need to talk to Carmine Appice because he does a lot of those land investments and he's still doing it. I don't know if
that's good. That's good. No, I know Carmine. He and I touched base once.
Right.
We touched base, of course, a lot back in the day. But he, between the Long Island and Connecticut area, I know he hangs around there, and we both sort of hail from those areas and spend a lot of time there. So we have bumped into each other occasionally. He's great, amazing drummer, really cool guy, and he's always a fantastic person to talk to.
Yeah, I was talking to him about marijuana stocks because I bought a bunch of those. He got interested.
Well, back in the day, it was funny because he obviously there were a lot of people in the 60s and 70s that was into that, and I remember one time we played a big festival down south, and he and I hung out in a dressing room, and he was enjoying some of that, and I was enjoying a big a case of beer before we went on stage, and I kept asking, I said, how can you smoke so much before you go on stage? And he said, well, how the hell can you drink so much before you go on stage? So I guess everybody had their had their poisons or their inspiration, however you want to say it. But I think that that marijuana should have been legal years and years and years ago. It's ridiculous that it's taken so long, and so it's not my thing, but I think that if somebody wants to enjoy it, that's another topic for conversation at some other time.
Well, I'm giving the album 5 stars. Some of the other tracks I want to talk to you. It's funny, "Dying to Love You" sounds a lot like all of my love from Zeppelin. Do you hear that at all?
Really?
Yeah, I hear that.
Well, that's a compliment.
Yeah. So maybe you were thinking, Robert Plant at the time. I don't know.
No. When I write songs, it's because I always just in my DNA. I'm always writing songs I imagine the Alice Cooper group is playing.
Right.
That's when you have a formula that works. So whenever I write a song, even when I wrote those songs, I always have the original band in mind. Michael, Dennis, myself, and then of course Michael and Glenn. Glenn was alive at that time. And Michael was not in Connecticut, so that was where I worked with Triple J, and his work was very inspirational. But that's a compliment. I hope I don't get sued because of that.
No.
But I never thought of that. But that's if it has a distant cousin, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, every song you hear something from another band or whatever. That's just natural.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how everybody develops their style.
Exactly.
In the early days, on the first couple of albums that we did as Alice Cooper, I would always imagine some of my favorite drummers as I was developing my style. I had gone through 2 years of private lessons learning all the rudiments and snare drum. I was in orchestra, in band, read music, everything. But I was developing a style after I got my first sets of drums and writing music. I'd be inspired by Ginger Baker, by Keith Moon, by Ringo Starr, by Charlie Watts, by drummer for Jimi Hendrix, Mitch Mitchell. These are the drummers that inspired me as Pretty's for You, Easy Action, Love It to Death, and Killer was being formed. But by the time school's out, then I had my style down, and when I played stuff and I wrote drum parts for all the songs, then I was going off of what I had created by that time. So I know exactly what you're saying, and I know that does come out in music. Inspirations, that's what inspired musicians and songwriters to do what they do.
Oh, it's natural. Robert Johnson started it all, and look how many people sound like him now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know.
Yeah. Well, some of these titles are fantastic too. I want to be good, but I don't know how. I love that.
this gal that was in one of the real estate. My first real estate company that I was with, Joe Sherman Real Estate in Westport, Connecticut. One of her top agents was. She was French and European, and so we got along well. She was a top producer. She was probably 20 or 30 years older than me at the time, and but she was a pistol. I mean, she was a real character. I loved her to death. Her name was Lizette, and at her age, and because she was definitely in her late 50s, 60s, and she said one time we were at a party, and she said, "I want to be good, but I don't know how." And that just stuck with me. And I said, that's a great name. And I tell people that when I hear that, as a musician, a songwriter, whenever you get an idea from a song, for a song title, you don't know where it's going to come from, and they just come out of the blue. And she said it. I wrote it down on a dollar bill. It was in my pocket. I had no other piece of paper. I always had as a realtor, I always had a pen with me. I always still do in my pocket. And I wrote down the name of the song on a dollar bill. I still have that dollar bill to this day. And that was over 30 years ago.
Wow.
So that's where that I want to be good, but I don't know how came from.
Oh, that's awesome. That is really, really, really cool. Me and you got a lot in common in a way. You did real estate. I did mortgages. I was a banker.
Okay.
I did residential, and then I got into commercial. I did a lot of commercial lending.
Cool.
And
right. Okay. Good. Well, then you know exactly what I'm talking about as far as that business goes, because the mortgage business and the real estate investment business, whether it's commercial or residential, go hand in hand. I mean, without a doubt, that's terrific.
Well, you guys used to yell at me a lot because I was the money guy, and you were always waiting on me,
Well, not as much as that's true, but also the appraisers as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, especially when they get it wrong. What do you mean it's only worth this much?
Right, I know. Yeah. I always love it. The way that the appraiser values a house, the way that the buyer appraises a house, and the way that the seller appraises a house is really three different concepts.
But then they started cheating. I mean, when the before it all blew up. Then they started cheating. Well, how much do you want?
I know. When the secondary money, well, of course, there was the big meltdown of '87, the big recession, and then the 2007, 2008.
Oh, that was horrible.
Secondary money market. I was selling my house in Connecticut right at the time that happened, and had a buyer. It fell apart. The deal fell apart, and then the buyer came back, and we worked it out. But believe me, by that time, it cost me a lot of money to make the deal, make the deal work.
Yeah, it hurt me too, big time. I mean, 2008 was horrible. It was really, really bad.
Yep.
Yeah. I hope that never happens again, but it probably will.
I hope so too. But you never know. I mean, history has a funny way of repeating itself, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But if you had a pulse, you got a loan back then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
The first time me and you talked, I brought up Eddie Haskell, and that the rumor about Alice Cooper was Eddie Haskell, in school. I remember all that. You said Alice started that rumor, and now this year...
Yeah, it did start. I mean, I think we talked about that when we were doing the Killsmith Halloween interview, and just one day he said, I'm tired of talking about the snake and about beer and about the normal things every single day, because by that time he was the total spokesman for the band, and he just said, I'm gonna. He made up the stories that he was Eddie Haskell. I go, nobody's gonna believe that at all. And all of a sudden, these people, everybody starts writing about that Alice Cooper was Eddie Haskell. I'm going, oh man.
Well, we all believed it in school, let me tell you.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's just, it's one of those things, it's so crazy. Why would he make it up?
Yeah. And now Ken Osmond passes away this year. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I was very sad. No, it was one of my favorite shows.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about Alice Cooper. The album's incredible. Everybody needs to buy it, and I'm going to promote the hell out of it because it's awesome. When it first was, coming out that it was a Pops recording from the 80s and 90s, right away you're thinking of, cover tunes and that kind of thing, kind of like Phil Collins did with Motown and R&B stuff. I was so happy it was not, and that it was all original material.
Yeah, no, this is all brand new, fresh stuff. I mean, it was never released before. It was all original material, which makes it, again, kind of fun. And I mean, it literally is. I couldn't go into a studio right now and write a song like that.
Yep, exactly.
Because, as I say, it's a time capsule. What's in a time capsule can't be reproduced decades and decades and centuries later, ever. So it's one of a kind for sure, and it's like it's been sitting on the shelf aging like a fine wine for years.
Yeah. Some of these, I mean, if Top 40 was like what it used to be, they could have been standards, Top 40 standards. I really think so.
I appreciate that. I mean, to me, that's a compliment because I think part of the magic of the band Alice Cooper was to take our really raw, dark image, and then how do you make that commercial with singles? And with the help of Bob Ezra and Michael Bruce's songwriting skills, we were able to do it and had some, I think, pretty big hits that were representative of the band, but we never compromised on who we were or our image.
That's what you just said is truly amazing. A band like Alice Cooper has these, commercial hits also, that appeals to everybody, even kids. I mean, look at School's Out. How many commercials has that been in?
Well, that's commercial, and then it's even more commercial because it's almost made us legitimate, which is kind of scary. I'm never comfortable. That's why I like the Killsmith projects because they're still sort of cutting edge,
back
a little bit dark.
Yeah.
And but that's I know we're almost legitimate now. The original band is almost legitimate. That's kind of scary.
I love Alice when he does his commercials too.
Oh yeah.
My name is Alice. I live in a palace. He's funny.
Well, that was the other thing, and a lot of people have picked up on it over the years. Our sense of humor, the tongue-in-cheek stuff that we did, and I mean it. Yeah, we went out there, but we were never serious about it. When there was always another side of the story. I mean, Dead Babies is not about killing babies. It's about parental abuse and not taking care and not watching their children. I mean, Betty ate a pound of aspirin. I mean, the little baby got into the medicine cabinet and overdosed on medicine because it wasn't, safely put away. I mean, that's what the story's about. So there's always a moral to anything that we had. When Alice was killed or hung on stage, there was a reason for doing that. It just wasn't, we're taking our singer, we're going to string him up or cut his head off or put him in an electric chair. So, no, that's true. But it was all, with fun humor, like a Saturday afternoon at the matinee at the movies back in the day.
I interviewed Arthur Brown, who's a really cool guy. He's got a.
I never got to talk to him, but I loved Arthur Brown. He was great.
Yeah, and he's got a great voice. Better than I ever thought. Yeah. But that was so cool when Alice put him on stage. I thought that was neat.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. Well, he was a huge hero of ours. I mean, we loved Arthur Brown back in the day.
Right.
We saw him, I think, when he came through California. We lived there, and then, of course, in the Midwest, when they had just tons and tons of festivals in the summer back in the day, he played there, and we watched him live.
And he toured with Carl Palmer because Carl Palmer was in that band a long time ago. So that was cool. Yeah, he brought him back out again, which was neat. Yeah, the guy
played with him again. I know that Alice brought him out, but Carl Palmer didn't play with him, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, cool. Oh, I didn't realize that. That's great. No, Carl Palmer's a great drummer. He's a bit of a pain in the ass sometimes, but he's a great drummer.
Yeah, somebody was a pain in the ass, and I interviewed all three of those guys from ELP, and they were hilarious talking about each other.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I can be a pain in the ass too, but basically, I'm a real fun guy, but I don't take any bullshit from anybody.
I don't blame you.
But they're a great band. I mean, for a trio, and I always love trios because the drummer has to be extra Hendrix and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, great bands because of that reason. That everybody has to be on their game and make a lot of music for three pieces.
Exactly. Well, the drummer's kind of the leader, in my opinion. I mean, he's the one who sets the stage. As far as
if you're looking for an argument from me, Ray, you're not going to get one.
I've had a lot of drummers on this show. It's amazing. Drummers are all cool, though. I never had.
No, drummers are another breed.
Yeah.
I just want to comment about that because when I've done many interviews and they're talking about my style, my percussion, and my inspiration, I said, well, after it's like the band, after we found our groove and we knew who we were as a band, the same thing happened to me as a drummer, and I only had one thing I thought about when I wrote a song like, when I was writing the drum parts like Black Juju, or to the song Killer,
right,
or to the song $1 Billion Babies.
Right.
The only group of people that I cared about what they said or if they liked it were actually drummers.
Yeah.
That's all I cared about. When I wrote the song, I said, if I were a drummer and I heard this, there's two comments that there's only one comment you want to hear, that it's cool, and the only one that you don't want to hear, that's not cool.
Right.
So I've never heard any negative thing from any drummer about my percussion, and to me, that's the biggest testimonial. Yeah, I love the fans that they love the intro to $1 Billion Babies, or they love Black Juju, or any of the real heavy percussion songs that we did, because we did a lot of them. We had a lot of that was a fun band to write with, because everybody had their jobs to do, and everybody had an open slate. They could do whatever worked. There were no restrictions. Let's put it that way, and that was one of the fun things about the band. So drummers to me, if I heard compliments from the drummers, I did my job, and I was extremely happy about that.
Yeah, recognition from your peers is really important. Who thinks like that too is Billy Cobham. I know Billy. If something's not right, because he played with Miles Davis and a lot of those big guys.
That's a whole other level of trouble.
And he would be sick for days if something wasn't right, or he felt he didn't play right around those guys. So,
oh yeah, yep.
Yeah. So I know what you're talking about.
No, I saw Buddy Rich play live one time at a dinner theater in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And he would stop if there was a mistake, he would stop in the middle of the song and bust the guy's ass that made the mistake, they would start the song again from the beginning. It was all part of the show.
Yeah.
But it was he was just such an entertainer. Just listening to Buddy Rich talk was a show in itself. And but it was I just never saw anything like it. They were up there having fun, but you better play it right, or the song will stop, and you will start again and get another chance.
That was him. What was on last night? The Gene Cooper story.
I saw that.
Did you see it?
I saw the end of it, and I was channel surfing, and I saw the Gene Cooper story. I thought, oh man, that's one of my favorite movies in the world. Sal Mineo actually is pretty darn good in the movie.
What happened to Sal Mineo? Did he get killed or something? Murdered or something like that?
I don't remember his demise, but I don't think he died of natural causes.
Right.
I think you're right. I don't know what happened, but I'd have to go back and Google that and see what happened. But yeah, no, I think there was some sort of tragic end that he experienced. But that movie was great. He was like the perfect guy to play Gene Krupa too. When I saw, I know what Gene Krupa looked like back then. To me, Gene Krupa is still the number one guy. And I actually have a Gene Krupa story. That when I first had, I wanted my own personal sticks after the Killer album, and between the Killer album and between Schools Out, and when we went over to the UK, and I wanted to find out the best stick maker in the United States, and at that time I actually believe Carmen had his sticks made. Johnny Capella out of New New Jersey at Capella Wood. And also Gene Krupa had his sticks made. When I found out Gene Krupa had his sticks made by Johnny Capella, I said, that's the guy that I want. Huh. So I met with Johnny. We designed a stick. It's not the traditional stick that you normally have. It's a little bit longer than most sticks.
Right.
I think it's like a 5B would be the closest to it, but it's not exactly the same. And also for that tour in 1972, he made me a mini stick, which was about maybe 8 inches long. It's a Neal Smith, Alice Cooper Group European tour in 1972. I still have a few of those left, and I threw them out to the crowds. And they were just about 8 inches long, mini sticks. But I got a call from Johnny Capella, and he said, after he had started making sticks for me, and been a while, and he said, Neal, he said, Gene Krupa wants to meet you.
Wow.
I said, what? He goes, Gene wants to meet you. He heard about this guy that has this giant drum set with 22 drums, and he just doesn't know how you possibly play a set like that, and he wants to meet you and talk shop with you. And I went like, I still, to this day, Ray, I'm telling you, I get chills thinking about that. And I said, I would love to meet him. And before my schedule and his schedule worked out, unfortunately, Gene had passed away.
Yeah.
And it was one of the saddest moments of my life, but it was one of the happiest moments that he knew who I was. He had seen pictures of me on this giant set. He just wanted to find. Well, I'm 6'3", and I have a wingspan of my reach of my hands from tip to tip is over 6 feet, maybe closer to 6.5 feet. And then by the time you put drumsticks in my hands, you're almost talking like 8 feet that I can reach either way. So I did have a big reach, which is very helpful in playing a whole gigantic set of 22 drums like that. But at any rate, I was saddened by Gene's death, and I was saddened by the chance that I never got to meet with him face to face or talk to him.
Oh, that's a shame. Imagine having a picture with him, and
blowing it up. That'd be a highlight of my life. And the fact that he even knew my name was, I think, one of the biggest thrills of my life.
I'm a big baseball fan too, and I got to hang out with Ted Williams, which is my claim to fame.
Oh, that's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
I remember it when I saw him the last. I wasn't at the Old Timers Day when he was. Remember, he was at the. I think he was. That was right before he passed away.
The All-Star game.
They had a golf cart. He actually came out on the field.
I remember that.
Like in Boston.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a great guy. I actually sold him a couple of radios. I had a business, and I was an entrepreneur for a long time in D.C. I had a retail electronics store, and he bought these shortwave. He loved gadgets. He was really into gadgets.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So got to spend a couple of hours with him.
Wow, that's great.
And he was asking me what time I close, because it was getting late. And I said, Mr. Williams, I close when you're done.
I'll stay open all night.
Exactly. He says, God damn it, you should be a goddamn politician. That's how he talked, everything's goddamn this.
I love it, man. That's great.
Just like John Wayne, I got to ask you, you and Alice, do you play golf together?
Yeah, well, he got me into the game in the early 90s,
right.
Back at the same time that these songs were written, because by that time, once I was in the real estate business, and I was doing pretty well in it, so I had the money to get away for a couple week vacation, and I started coming back out to Arizona. So in the early 90s, I was here, and he just one day said, Neal, let's go play. And it was in the wintertime, so the weather is, fantastic. So I said, well, I don't really play. I said, I caddied once in my life when I was a kid, but I never really played. He goes, that's all right, we'll go out and we'll play around. Well, that's all it took. I got hooked. And so I've been playing ever since.
Well,
we do get together, unfortunately, because the two times we were supposed to get together, and this is like ironic in Phoenix, Arizona, but the two times we were supposed to get together early on before they closed everything down, we got rained out.
Oh, man.
That's true. That's dead true. I mean, there were the two times I think it rained this year so far, we had scheduled to play together.
That's a shame. Yeah. If you're in the mortgage business or in the banking industry, you got to play. I mean, that's it's gimme.
Oh yeah.
You take your clients out.
No, I still have a couple of mortgage people I play with. One's from Connecticut and one's from Massachusetts. As a matter of fact, we get together and he'll come down and we'll still play around every once in a while, once or twice a year. But no, Alice and I try to get out about once a month when I'm out. I've been for the last 5 years. I've come out for the first 4 months of the year since 2016, and this year I got stuck in Arizona because of the virus. Everything shut down, stay in place,
right.
and which I have done, and now I have to get back because things are starting to get actually worse in Arizona. For some reason, they're spiking. They were one of the last states to close, one of the first ones to open back up again. So now they're starting to pay the price and spike. Although nobody's taking blame for it, obviously, but that's what's happening. I watched the numbers in Connecticut, watched the numbers in Arizona, and even though there's a lot more cases over the time in Connecticut, the numbers are starting to level off and slow down there. So it's time to get back. Also, I feel more comfortable with air travel as well.
Yeah, we're starting to spike a little bit again here. I don't know if it's because the beaches were open or what. But
I don't know either. I don't know all the reasons, but I do know one thing: the heat ain't killing it because
it's not.
It's hotter than hell. There's already been multiple days over in triple digits, and actually some days over 110 degrees so far this year. I get stuck here, Ray, and all of a sudden they're breaking records in high heat in Arizona this early in the year. So that's another thing that hasn't really worked out in my favor because I can't go out and play golf. It's too hot to play. I could play maybe up to 95 in Arizona because of the humidity it's so dry here. Yeah. But once it gets over 95, definitely over 100,
right.
There's no way I can play. It's too hot. I have done it before, and I made it, but man, it is. It's a whole other challenge in golf, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I have a cousin that she passed away, unfortunately, at a young age, but she lived in Tucson, and I went to her wedding, and, they're always saying, it's a dry heat, you won't feel it, I said, yeah, right. I mean, it's 100-some degrees out there, how can you not feel it,
That is the big, that should be one of the top 3 lives on the planet. That should be another one.
Yeah, I hear that a lot about Arizona. But we went to Tucson was awesome. I never saw so many cactus.
I love it down there.
Never saw so many cactus in all my life. Couldn't believe it. But
I think it's south of Phoenix, but I think it's actually almost a little cooler there sometimes.
Oh, really?
Higher elevation, I believe.
We went to Tombstone too. That was fun. Tombstone was cool.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Exactly. Neal, here's your last question, and I ask everybody this question, and I'm sure I've asked you before, and I got a feeling what you're going to say, but if you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform, collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
If I had the wish to collaborate with anyone that's
or be in a band with,
alive or dead?
Yeah.
Well, I'm such a Jimi Hendrix fan. We hung out with him several times. I think I mentioned that before.
Yeah.
It would have to be, without a doubt, Jimi Hendrix, just because of his talent. Paul McCartney and John Lennon, phenomenal songwriters. But Jimmy would be the person that I would just love to especially back in the day, what he was thinking when he wrote those songs and those riffs and the riffs that became songs. So he would be the number one. The bass player that I really love and would love to write with sometime, also Billy Sheehan, if you remember him.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
From Mr. Big.
Yeah.
And actually, when I wrote the album Platinum God, it was before I recorded Mike Marconi from Rochester, New York, who played guitar, and he was also in the $1 Billion Baby band that did the Battle Axe album. Mike Marconi was a good friend of Billy Sheehan's from the same area, and I went up to see him play one time, and I really, at one point early on, before he got really busy, I really would have loved to have Billy Sheehan play on the Platinum God album with Mike Marconi and myself, and but that didn't work out. And then Dennis was graceful enough to Dennis Dunaway, did a great job on the Platinum God album with me. So that was actually a very, very cool thing that worked out that way. But no, so Billy as a bass guitar player, and Jimi Hendrix as a guitar player. Songwriting and playing and everything.
Great answer. I had Lee Haskell on recently, and he was he saw Jimmy. He was in London at the that famous jazz club there, and he saw him perform. It was the last performance ever before he died the next day.
Wow, the day before he died.
And he was with Eric Burden in War. Lee Haskell, the harmonica player in War.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I saw Eric. I think, matter of fact, we had done when the band first started, changed our name to Alice Cooper, 68, 69. We were still in L.A.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of festivals there. I think we did a couple of festivals with Eric Burden in War.
Right. So he was there the night before, and I think Eric Clapton was supposed to meet him the day he died, I think, and present him a guitar. He had
That's probably why.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding.
But he had a left-handed Strat, I think he was going to present to Jimmy, and they were going to go to a Sly and the Family Stone concert, I think, in England. I met Clapton before too, but to me, my three top guitar players: Jimi Hendrix, Jeff Beck, and Clapton. There's other great guitar players. I don't make Clapton the guitar god that he is, but I love Beck a lot more than Clapton. But that's personal taste. Yeah.
They all qualified to be equally. Beck and Clapton. Of course, they were both in the Yardbirds.
Yep.
But Jimmy's on a level of his own, superseding, in my opinion, way above it. I saw him live like 4 times.
Wow, really?
So what the guy did, on record is one thing, and thank God for recording that we actually able to have Jimmy on the records, but live was just something else. And a lot of the footage that you see, film and video from back in the day, doesn't really capture at all because of the sound.
I agree.
But the sound because they couldn't record.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't record anything back then. But the sound live was phenomenal that he did, and it was it sounded like or heard of dinosaurs sometimes, and the crazy stuff he was playing. It was, and I wasn't stoned on LSD.
You didn't have to be.
I was some other times, but never while I listened. I never went to a concert stoned ever in my life. So I never saw music or went to any. I didn't go to that much live music anyway. But when we did, I have a couple of beers. That was about it. But anyway, that's Jimmy and Billy would be an amazing team to write songs with.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine what Jimmy would have been into now. He might have done some fusion, and kind of Mahavishnu stuff.
I think about that sometimes.
Yeah.
About some of the great musicians that have passed away, especially Jimmy. And that was one thing when I made the decision back in the 70s to just cut drugs 100% from my life,
right,
and cut hard liquor 100% from my life, and just beer and wine. That's all I've had since the 70s. And I said I'd rather go, instead of the fast burn, I'd rather go for the really long, slow burn. There's enough in this world that can kill you without pushing.
That's true.
Without pushing it. Yeah. And so I made that decision. I said I don't know what I'll be doing when I'm in my 50s and 60s and 70s, but here I'm in my 70s. I'm still working on Kill Smith, still putting music out like Pop 85, 95, and I still love doing it. It still excites me, and some of these other musicians, and unfortunately the demons of rock and roll caught up with them, and that's a crying shame. Mm-hmm. But back in the day, in it was just, like 1 month, one time period after another, these great musicians, great superstars were just, they were dying, and it was this very sad time from that perspective.
I hate to say this, but they're still dropping like flies.
Well, yeah, but at least they're older. But no, they still do. I mean, I think because of their celebrity status,
right,
that they get a lot of press. But if you're just a business person, I'm not just saying just. I don't mean that in a negative way. But if you're in another profession,
right,
and you get into drugs, because let's face it, drugs, they're not prejudiced. They go into every profession there is on the planet, and people get strung out in different ways. And when they pass away, of course, nobody notices it, and it's not a big news event.
Right.
But if you're a celebrity, or you have been a celebrity, of course, that gets tons of publicity, and so there's notoriety in that. People, they bring it to the news, and it is unfortunate. It still does happen, though. You're right.
Well, what was really sad, I think the last time we really had anything that resembled rock was probably in the 90s during that grunge period. There was a lot of good guitar players back then, and now, of course, the bands and all that, they're all gone, not like they used to be.
Yeah, I know, and that's a crying shame. I think we probably talked about that, too, about, the future of rock.
I know.
I just think, you've got to be these monster bands, like the Who and the Stones, and Alice out on tour.
Yep.
These are the bands, I don't think anybody coming up from scratch right now. If you want to make it in the industry, it's either country or rap or hip hop. Or pop.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's. I hate to say it because my background is 100% rock and roll, and I'm in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But I just think that if there's a renaissance, a surge, that would be phenomenal. But musically, you're probably more in tune with it, doing what you do than what I do. I'm very aware of an awful lot, and I see it on the internet probably more than anything. But there's still great musicians writing songs, and God bless them for doing that.
There are a lot of good musicians, and if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of young kids that are very good guitar players, and especially girls.
Oh, yeah, I know. I think I had mentioned one time a couple of years ago I was a celebrity guest in a it's like they were having a contest for like American Idol for a vocalist, and I was a guest judge up in Boston. Right. And it was one of my mortgage friends that was sponsoring this event, and it was all the proceeds were going to charity. So I went up there, and I was there were a couple of local Boston people that were also in the judge booth. Right. And a singer would come out, sing a song, and then the great singers, and then another singer would come out, and everybody in the band, there's girls and guys in the band, they change instruments.
Oh, man.
The bass player would pick up a guitar. The guitar player would go over to the keyboard. Keyboard player would go to the drum. And they were switching all the time. And I go, what the hell is this? I said, every one of them was a master on the... I'm going, this is amazing. Yeah. I had never seen anything like it. But I don't... It's very hard to impress me, Ray. Right. Let me tell you. Very hard to impress. But I was going, these are all college kids. Yeah. These kids were amazing. And I talked to a lot of people. They said, you know what, Neal, that's what's going on these days. Yep. Somebody plays guitar, they play keyboard, they play drums, they play all the instruments. I'm going, that is impressive. And that's what was happening. And so it's not only that they're mastering their own instrument, but they're learning all the other instruments too. I think it's amazing, and I give them the biggest salute and kudos in the world.
Yeah, it's a shame though, because whoever is the influence today in music, there's no Don Kirshner's or Dick Clark's or anybody like that anymore that realizes what good music is. But these guys don't have a chance. They're great, talent, but they're not going to be showcased, out there. Back in your day, they were looking for that kind of talent in garage bands. You know, if you had a great band and you were playing in the garage, somebody might hear you and actually offer you a record contract or something because it was hip, it was hot. You know, the music was hot back then.
Absolutely, but now it's, you know, you're like playing to a deaf audience.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a shame, you know. It really is.
Well, at least maybe the internet, because you never know what can happen. I mean, I always say, whenever you're playing, you are always auditioning. I don't care how big you are, or if you're just starting. You've been playing for 50 years. Have been playing for 6 months. You're always auditioning, and you're always trying to make that first impression. And maybe somebody on the internet, they in the music world is different too. You have a song that's a hit, and it has 3 million downloads, and it's your own music. The record companies aren't even capitalizing on that. Then
they're not, which is a shame. It really is. Yeah. Neal, I want to thank you so much, man, for being on the show today. This will definitely be aired. I can guarantee it. There's no fires.
Watch out for any kind of lightning strikes or anything
exactly. Like that. There's nothing happening in Lafayette, California right now, so I think we're okay.
Okay, that's good. That's good, man. All right, well, great talking to you too, Ray, and I appreciate you, enjoying Pop 85.
That's
95,
great.
And
great album.
The songs that we talked about, I think Secret Eyes, Distant Drums, another one, and I Want to Be Good, but I Don't Know How, Love Can Run, Love Can Hide. Those are some of the songs that are, I know getting some interest from the CD.
Well, you did a great job putting that together, and I
appreciate it.
It's a wonderful CD. Tell Alice next time you see him. I've been trying to get an interview with him for a long time, but haven't been able to.
Okay, well, I'll see him. Hopefully I see him before I got to get out of here in a couple of weeks.
I mean, I've had everybody else, and I've done over 2,000 interviews, but I haven't had Alice on yet, so.
Well, it's just funny. I mean, he loves to do interviews. I know that. Just don't believe him if he tells you he's Eddie Haskell, all right?
Okay, well, now I won't believe him.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Neal.
Right, well, great talking to you, man.
Hope to see you in Florida.
Okay, I would definitely let you know, and if you need anything else, I'm always here for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, man.
All right, partner.
All right, bye.
All right, see you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. To purchase the new album of retro pop songs, Pop 85-95 by Neal Smith, you can visit his store at www.nealsmith.com/store. That's on his website, www.nealsmithrocks.com. Also, www.nealsmithpop8595.herenow.com. Also, for more information about Neal Smith, www.nealsmithrocks.com and www.facebook.com/NealSmithRocks. Very special thanks today to Billy James, the great Billy James of Glass Onion PR, for arranging this interview with Neal Smith. And, of course, the dynamic duo of Doug and Don Newsom of BBS Radio for making the magic happen for each and every broadcast of Interviewing the Legends. If you have comments or suggestions for the show, contact me at interviewingthelegends@gmail.com. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Interviewing the Legends with Ray Shasho, for the very latest interviews. Hey, people, it's real news. And, of course, my new book is out, entitled The Rockstar Chronicles. This is Series 1 out of, hopefully, 4. Chronicles Truths, Confessions, and Wisdom from the Music Legends. That set is all free. Order yours today on hardcover or ebook at bookbaby.com. It features over 45 intimate conversations with some of the greatest rock legends the world will ever know. Stay safe out there. Be healthy. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Interviewing the Legends. Brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency. Call 941-877-1552 or visit us at PublicityWorksAgency.com, specializing in author and music artist publicity plans. We shine when we make you shine. Tune in to Interviewing the Legends every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time on PBS Radio, Station 1.